Activision is known for its commitment to innovation and its ability to push the boundaries of what is possible in video game development. The company has a strong track record of creating groundbreaking games that set new standards for the industry. Despite its success, though, Activision has faced criticism in recent years over issues related to working conditions and employee treatment. The company has been accused of fostering a toxic work culture and engaging in unfair labor practices. Activision has pledged to address these issues and improve working conditions for its employees. So, what happened? So before we get into what happened to Activision, we need to go over how Activision all began. The year is 1976, and Warner Communications brought out Atari Incorporated from Noel and Bushnell in an effort to help accelerate the Atari video computer system, also known as the Atari 2600, to the market by 1977, which prompted Atari to hire more programmers to create games for it. However, prior to Warner's acquisition, Atari never rewarded or credited any programmer who created a profitable game to prevent them from going to the competition. So early in 1979, Atari's marketing department sent out a memo listing the top-selling games the previous year to help come up with new ideas. David Crane saw that the game he was responsible for brought in a whopping $20 million, but he only got a measly $20,000 in salary. And out of the entire development staff, 4 programmers at games that brought in 60% of Atari sales, and they were David Crane, Larry Kaplan, Alan Miller, and Bob Whitehead. Because of the lack of credit these 4 got on their games, they marched up to Bob Kastner, the then CEO of Atari, in May of 1979, demanding that Atari treats their programmers like the record labels treat their musicians, by giving out royalties and putting their names on the box. They called themselves the Gang of Four. However, Kastner saw it differently and called them tile designers, stating that anyone can make a cartridge. Upon hearing this, the Gang of Four soon left Atari to go and create their own company, but not sure how to go about it, since at the time third-party developers were not a thing yet, and most games were created for the console the company had created. Their thinking was then to create their own console, so at the urging of their attorney, they created their own company and soon checked with their legal department to make sure that they could create games for the Atari 2600, which included all legal fees as well. And soon after that, the last of the Gang of Four left Atari and joined Crane, and they founded Activision in 1979, but it was first called Computer Arts Incorporated, and they bounced around VSync. However, Levy, their lawyer and CEO, said why not combine the word active with the word television and call it Activision. They started out working out of Crane's garage, and each of the 4 creating a game to be released by 1980. Their knowledge of the Atari 2600 and some programming tricks made sure their games were different from the ones Atari had put out, and a brightly colored and featured a screenshot of the game on the back, and had instruction manuals that credited the programmer as well. Plus, if you sent in a photo of your high score to them, you would receive a patch. Ahead of the 4 games released by Activision, they had secured space at the 1980 Consumer Electronics Show. The attention Activision had got pissed off Atari so much that Atari tried to tarnish Activision's name. First, Atari tried to label the 4 as evil people who stole trade secrets, and then threatened if we refused to sell Atari games to stores who sold Activision titles, on top of suing Activision for violating the non-disclosure agreement. It was sold by having Activision pay royalties to Atari thus was born the dawn of the third-party developer model. Following their first 4 games, Activision set out to create a new game the following year, with Kaboom in 1981 and Pitfall in 1982. Kaplan left Activision to go on to work on the Amiga personal computers. By 1983, more developers copied the third-party method Activision started, but unlike Activision, they had programmers with little to no experience in game programming, which caused warehouses of unsold games, and to get rid of them, they got heavily discounted just to get rid of them. After going from 400 employees to 95 employees, Activision decided that in order to stay afloat, they needed to diversify their games for the home computer market. Even though they survived, they still lost some talent when both Miller and Whitehead left to form Acclaid. To help bounce back from the crash, Activision started to make games for the home PC market, and in 1996, through merger, they acquired Texas venture developer Infocom. After differences between Crane and Levy's replacement Brian Davis, Crane left Activision and founded Absolute Entertainment with Gary Kitchen. At this time, Activision started to go into other software than just games, and to reflect this, they changed their name to Mediagenic, which was divided into 4 groups: Activision, which published games for consoles and Nintendo and Sega; Infocom, interactive fiction games, GameStar, sports games, and 10.0 business software. After several years of loss, Activision was forced to shut down Infocom. However, Mediagenic started to develop a football game that would soon become Joe Montana's Football. Sega of America was able to pay Mediagenic in 1990 to develop it. However, Sega had no idea of the massive issues Mediagenic was dealing with internally, which caused the game never to be finished, forcing Sega to hand it over to EA Sports, who was developing their own game called Joe Madden Football to complete the project. During all this, Mediagenic secured the distribution rights from Cyan Worlds, with Manhole being the first game by both. Under Davis' management, Mediagenic failed to turn a profit and had reported a massive loss of $26.8 million, with an even bigger debt of $60 million. Ahead of the 4 games released by Activision, they had secured space at the 1980 Consumer Electronics Show. The attention Activision had got pissed off Atari so much that Atari tried to tarnish Activision's name. First, Atari tried to label the 4 as evil people who stole trade secrets, and then threatened if we refused to sell Atari games to stores who sold Activision titles, on top of suing Activision for violating the non-disclosure agreement. It was sold by having Activision pay royalties to Atari. Thus was born the dawn of the third-party developer model. Which brings us to Bobby Kotick, who became interested in the value of the game industry following the crash of '83. Kotick was drawn to buying Mediagenic not for its carrying offerings, but for the Activision name alone. Kotick had made massive changes to the company, with firing all but 8 of the 150 employees. By '95, Kotick had made investors happy by giving them 4 years of 50% growth, and also to develop high-demand games to make the company profitable by 1997. Now that Activision had their own successful games, Kotick felt it was time for the company to acquire another game studio that caused Activision to change their name to Activision Holdings, and then to Activision Publishing. With Activision being highly successful, however, Kotick felt the need for a title for the growing MMO market, so in 2006 he contacted the CEO of Vivendi, which was struggling at the time, and had owned Blizzard Entertainment, which had one successful MMO, and that was World of Warcraft. After fretting over it and acquiring Red Octane, Kotick eventually agreed to the merger, and Activision Blizzard was born. By 2009, Activision had established a few new companies, starting with Sledgehammer Games in 2009, and Visceral Games, and so on. Overall, Activision had made a significant impact on the gaming industry, and continues to be a driving force in creating unforgettable gaming experiences for players around the world. What games by Activision do you remember? Let me know in the comments. Until then, don't forget to mash that like button, ring the bell, and smash the subscriber button so you get the heads up when my next video goes out. I am Paul saying peace out and stay frosty.